Alright y'all, so today I am in the tin shop. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of soldering. I am making some black powder measures at this point, which are starting to look like this. These are about 90 grain measures. I hope it didn't just pop the bottom of that open. But basically, you would see these hanging off the bottoms of your... It'll be fine. Hanging from the powder horns that you see the guys, especially here, carrying around at the museum. So since paper cartridges would kind of be hard to get a hold of sometimes, you're going to use these instead. So you pour the powder straight into here, pour it into the gun. That way you know exactly how much powder you've been using. But these are a bit of a pain. I was trying to make some over the 4th, and realized pretty quickly that how I was putting them together wasn't going to work in a traveling tinsmith kind of setup, because I needed the vice grip, which is over here where you can't quite see it. But basically, to make them, take a tube. These are 1.5 inches, half inch in diameter. So I took a modern powder measure and kind of measured off of that to get roughly the amount that we needed. From there, I'll take the tube, twist it around, usually using, ooh, how hot are you? This stake here, so on this end, this is the end that would typically be used to kind of shape it so it fits just over it. Round it out, get it to the point that it is this shape, and then there comes the bottom. So I cannot fold the bottoms of these out to kind of cap it on there the way I would want to. So instead, cut out a flat piece, soldering it down straight to it. But first, I gotta have the little tassel in it. So you poke a hole, drop the wire through, fold the other end over, and then twist it up into the loop. So it works pretty well. So my only problem is I have to solder these down, that way they don't spin and the hole that I'm closing up doesn't kind of lose powder out of it. So now that I've got that part done, I apparently need to put more charcoal in my fire, but now from here all I have to do is basically solder these in place around that edge and they're ready to go. Now, a lot of times you'll also see these made out of like cow horn and some of their other variations of plastic prior to 1900 as well. But for here, these seem to make a little bit more sense. There aren't really dimensions for them though, so this is one of those things that you read reference of, but no one describes how to make them. So based on some pictures, this is kind of what we've got. These, like I said earlier, are going to be 90 grain. I also have some 70 grain ones that I've been working on. I need to make a whole bunch more though, because your 90 grains are for the rifles, the 70 grain, I believe, don't quote me on these, are for the muskets. So we've got a good mixture of both here. Alright, so boss has really good timing. So I'm about to be making a bunch of the 70 grain ones, so they are 2 inches tall. I have my little marks on here, not that you can see them very well.
Since I seem to be really bad at fully explaining what's happening, at this point I'm just drawing everything out, marking where my lines need to be at like 1 5/8 of an inch wide. And then I go through, I cut it down, I trim it down just a little bit more because apparently today I couldn't cut straight. And yeah, from there, I'll explain the rest to you in a minute.
25 cents for the morphine and 15 cents for the beer. 25 cents for the morphine to take me away from here.
Basically, now that I've gotten my lines kind of marked here, which y'all are just not going to be able to see apparently, I'm not going to cut them out yet. I roll it, cut it, roll it, cut it. That way I have something to actually hold on to. But yeah, I'm going to move the camera one more time and start working on that and finish up the tall ones that I started, because once they're done, I'm going to start on these.
Grasshopper sitting on a sweet potato vine. Grasshopper sitting on a sweet potato vine. Grasshopper sitting on a sweet potato vine. And along comes the chicken and said, "You're mine."
Alright, so since I didn't seem to explain this part, this is how soldering is going to work for me, at least in the 17 and 1800s. So the soldering iron that I'm using is actually made out of copper, with some tin covering the outside. That way it transfers the solder pretty easily, and the solder that I'm using is a 50-50, so it is silver tin mix, and basically there's a little bit of powder on there, which is my flux. I use pine resin. That helps clean the metal and pull the solder where I need it to go. And basically all I'm doing is I'm melting it onto the soldering iron and then putting that solder where I want it to be. I have found that these particular soldering irons are a little on the hard side to find, but they do hold heat really well, and I think part of why they are harder to find is they would have been used a whole lot more than some of the other ones.